Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel, and we're going to talk about a little bit of buzz that's been in the news with this particular couple that's in the public eye, as we always talk about romance and relationship over here. But before we jump into this whole thing with Meagan and Devon Franklin, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. If you like the video, smash that like button, and also feel free to drop a comment down in the comment section below. So I'm not going to waste any more time on this. Let's just jump into this and talk about what's going on. So, as you guys probably have heard, Meagan Good and Devon Franklin have split after 9 years of marriage. Franklin filed papers, and there's a lot of speculation going on around the state of the demise of the couple's marriage. And we're going to talk about the progression over the years and, give my thoughts on maybe, what could be the typical situation. So let's talk about it. So according to legal documents that was, put out there by the site called The Blast, Franklin filed paperwork on this past Monday, December 20th, at the courthouse in Los Angeles that at this point he is filing for divorce from his wife, Meagan. Now, they did not share any further information, just what was the cause of the dissolution of the marriage. But some of it is a surprise for some, and then others is not a huge shock. There were quite a bit of rumors about the state of the couple's marriage after they stopped posting one another on each other's social medias this past summer. She was also on the red carpet for the premiere of the new Prime Video series called Solo, but her husband Franklin, wasn't there. Now, he did show support as the series debuted. He went on Instagram to tell people that, they will have, of course, a funny side of his wife that he knows very well. He even wrote in a caption, I'm so proud of my love, Meagan Good. She's one of the most talented actors on the planet, and she's funnier than you may know, but I'm so glad you finally get a chance to see her do it all as Camille Parks in the new Amazon show Harlem, and it started streaming on December 3rd on Amazon Prime Video. And then he said, P.S. This will be your new favorite show. Sex and the City has nothing on Harlem. And that was his, first mention of the show. And, Meagan welcomed the loving show of support, and, she put these little smiley hearts and things. However, a lot of us were sad to hear that these two, could be done. It just seems like yesterday they were on a book tour together, and then things seemingly were good. But obviously there's much more than maybe we know. So let's talk a little bit about their history. Now, back in 2011, they met where they first crossed paths while working on the film Jumping the Broom. She was definitely in the movie, and then Franklin was an executive for the distribution company that released the project. Now, one thing she did mention back at that time, she said she knew that he was meant to be her husband early on because God told her so, while she was currently in an unhealthy relationship with someone else. The first thing God told her, as she stated, was that it was time for her to get out of that relationship. And the second thing God told her was that it was time for her to be celibate. The third thing God told her is that Devon was her husband. Now, just to kind of elaborate on that, whatever her experience in that moment was is hers, right? However, I will say that sometimes jumping out of one relationship straight into another straight away maybe not be the best thing. Like I said, whatever happened for her in that moment, that was hers and hers alone. But generally speaking, usually it's a situation where, and I know I've heard the terms, you got to get under someone else to get over somebody else. Well, sometimes you need that time to figure out what's not working, especially if you recognize it's unhealthy and why were you there in the first place. it's time where you need to kind of become self-aware and kind of see what's going on with you before moving on to somebody else. I mean, because a lot of times we try to blame everybody else, but we also need to do a self-assessment as well. So yeah, other people can be accountable for their things, but we also have to be accountable for our things as well. So in this particular scenario, like I said, for her, she felt that was the best thing at that time based on her experience and what, she had in that moment with the what God told her to do. But in generally speaking terms, it's best usually if you're coming out of an unhealthy relationship is to reassess why you were there, why were the things that you accepted while you were in that relationship, and what to do differently in the next one. So that's my thoughts on this. But let's continue. So then in 2012, they did get married. In the spring, they got engaged. By June, the couple said, I do. Now, the couple was celibate leading up to their wedding. And, just a few years ago, Meagan said that was something she believed strengthened their bond. She believed that it helped because the relationship wasn't based on physicality. And that, sometimes she think that when that type of thing leads to relationship and that kind of connection, sometimes you really can't see clearly and you settle for things that you wouldn't settle for during the long term. And this is an interview that she had with Parade Magazine. And she also said you really don't realize until 3 or 4 years later down the line that it was pretty much based on that foundation. Now, I will say, in some cases it worked for people. Now, if you choose to start out the relationship and say, I'm going to wait till I get married because of whatever reason, and that works for the both of you in that relationship scenario, then that's your thing. There are other people who did not choose to do that and they've been married for years. So I think that's a part of it, but there's also the other parts of it where even though just say you're celibate, but there are other things that doesn't line up with how you two work together. You still can have a demise in this situation. Now, granted, it's not built on the physicality, which is, where she was coming from in that situation. But at the same time, there are other people who have experienced whatever sexual connection and went ahead and pursued that and then, went for greater things. I also feel that it's also based on the agenda that you walk in with that relationship. You have to be intentional. Sex is a part of the relationship. I must say that. But you should not, it shouldn't be over prioritized over everything else in the relationship. Everything has its place within that relationship and you have to balance it as such. But to each his own when choosing whether or not to be celibate. I can't say, oh, no, that's the wrong thing to do. It don't matter. And I've even seen some comments lately since they have split that people say, well, I guess celibacy don't work. Or, it depends on each situation. Now, generally speaking, majority of people don't wait, but it's their choice to do so if they choose to. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section on this, but let's continue. So here's where they have had a lot of, I guess, issues when it comes to the public eye. So they had to deal with pretty much during the middle years of their marriage, dealing with critics. Of course, with Franklin being a Seventh-day Adventist, and there were expectations that some people put on Meagan. They believed as his wife that she needed to carry herself a certain way. When they attended the BET Awards back in 2013, and she hit the red carpet with the plunging blue gown, and she got a lot of flack and was, the blowback was strong and it really impacted her. Pretty much it was described as being a full-on assault, and it went on for years. She even mentioned that when she got dressed up for Halloween or any event, she would get this type of reaction. She did say she never stopped being who she was, but she definitely had the trauma of, I know I'm going to be out in front of the firing squad is what she, described it as, and that she's never going to stop having control over who she is. And, if I feel I'm right with God, but I hate, especially if she says if she feel like she's right with God, but she hate that she's bracing herself for impact every time that happened. And then I don't know if you guys remember, they also did that book deal where they did a book release. They took their experiences and used them to write the book The Wait, a powerful practice for finding the love of your life and the life you love. It was a bestseller on the New York Times. It was everything about matters of love, not just sex, and that could be the key of making it last. However, they got a great deal of hate during that tour. But we did see her husband did not hesitate to stand up for her against the put some clothes on kind of squad. And he told him, he said, no, that's not what we're here for. And she was wiping away tears at that time. She's not going to cover up. She'll just wear what she wants. In the name of Jesus, amen. Yes, she will. So let's talk about that a little bit. Now, you get to choose how you want to move in a relationship, okay? However, you cannot control the environment. The outside world is going to, have their opinions. You can't control the actions of someone else. If you continue to be you and you okay with that, and you're going to take on the naysayers and the critics and, everybody else, then, you got to do what you got to do, which is what they had did in this particular case. The thing is, when you have someone or two people that are together that have vastly different lifestyles, this is where you usually find issues. Now, they didn't find it an issue within their relationship. However, with him being extremely religious, a lot of people felt that she was supposed to, or, as being his wife, pretty much kind of change her lifestyle. And of course, she's an entertainer. She's an actress, and, she's been in many different movies, as we all know. But when you look at it on the surface, it's two different lifestyles. And that's just even if the case where you have a person that's more conservative or another person that's more liberal. We've seen that on shows like Married at First Sight. For those who, follow my recaps on that show, we saw that with a couple of the married couples, that they have two vastly different opinions on life. Now in those cases, it did not work within their marriage, but with Meagan and Franklin, they definitely tried to mesh that together. The problem is that the outsiders, which you cannot control, as much as you tell people, hey, don't do that, we're not here for that, things like that, because the lifestyles are so different, you got people that'll come for you. And they were trying to make that work because, that was during the middle stages. I mean, you're talking 2013 to 2015. So that was 5 or 6 years ago, and they were able to still try to make it through that, So even though they didn't find it a problem because of his status and because of her being an entertainer, a lot of people was just not happy with the fact that, her dress was a certain way, or she did different things in the way of who she was prior to the marriage and now in a marriage. Now, I will say that some people do think that the way you move single, it's not the same way when you move when you're married, But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Let's keep talking about this. So next up on the agenda during their timeline is their talk about children and family planning. Now, the couple did appear on Dr. Oz's show, talking about their decision to wait on having children, and Meagan freezing her eggs after about 7 years of marriage. After wanting to wait, the actress had been, career oriented, and the couple seemed ready to try to expand. They had been talking about having kids, and Franklin said that he wanted kids, but she wasn't ready. And then there were times we were talking about it, and again, it was a conversation that really was going back and forth. And this is where Dr. Oz kind of recommended that she should freeze her eggs. So that's what they did. They froze their eggs, and they said they probably wouldn't have done it without his advice. The thing about this, now I know that now she's 40, and I'm thinking this conversation happened a couple years ago, so I'm thinking she's probably around 38. That's one of the biggest issues that, especially if you guys watch the shows that I recap, is children and money. And the thing is that if one person wants children and the other is like on the fence, or I want to wait, you probably are going to eventually have some issues. Now, they made an agreement because she wasn't ready to have kids, so they went ahead and froze her eggs to readdress the situation maybe some years later. But in general speaking terms, if one partner or a spouse wants children and the other don't, you usually or don't want to, or maybe not right now, you're going to have problems unless somebody come to an agreement to say, okay, fine. Now, I could see that happen. And listen, people have kids later in life. Now, is it easier? Maybe not. But the thing is that he obviously wanted children. She didn't at the time, and that's why they had to come up to this conclusion. Let's freeze your eggs. We don't want you to lose them, or maybe you stop ovulating as you get older, because she was close to 40. Some people go into menopause at 40. Who knows? So they wanted to get the eggs that she has at that moment in time in order to be able to have some usage for them when they're ready. But, however they chose to do that, that's what they did. But like I said, in most cases, you will have issues when one partner wants kids and the other one don't, or they don't want to have them right now, or whatever the reason, or they want to adopt and the other person want a biological child. You're going to have those issues. Question is, what do you do? Either one person has to say, okay, I'll wait, and they might resent that. The other person might say, okay, fine, I'll have a kid for you. And then they might resent that too. So it's usually best to find people that have the same core values. If you don't want kids, find somebody who don't want kids or have older kids. If you do want children, find somebody who's ready to have children with you. I mean, usually that's the case. So I'm not saying that this was the demise of their marriage, but I will say that that can be a concerning issue in a relationship or a marriage. So let's continue. All right, so now we're in 2021, and they're deciding now that she wants to start a family. She had shared earlier this year that she was ready and she could see herself being a mom at 40 because she was inspired by Halle Berry. She was a Halle Berry fan, a big one, and she, watched her and her career entire life. And when she saw that she had her first baby like 40, she was like, I'm going to be like her. I can still be the true identity of who I am. I can be a mom and I can be a great one. So now I've just gotten to the place, and I'll be 40 next year. And I'm like, okay, it's about time. And she did turn 40 this past August. The thing is that, and she did what she did. I think people tend to need to make decisions based on their personal experiences. Now, you can get inspired by someone, of course. But, for someone to say, you did that, I'm going to try to do it too. That doesn't mean that the path is going to be easier for you, maybe because it was easier for them, or vice versa. Now, she was motivated by that to do that. And like I said, you get to choose the choices that you make in life. You also have to be prepared for whatever the outcome of that is. And, it's interesting because the thing is that we get to the middle of this year, and they got real quiet online. And then, of course, as of this past week, he filed for divorce and they call it quits. So I don't know what transpired. Now, I did hear, that there was some scenes that, she did in a particular show that where she orally used herself in regards to the bottom of another man, if you know what I mean. And I'm trying to keep it clean over here. I know some of the other channels use other terminologies for it, but you know what we do over here. So I don't know if that was something, because a lot of people were saying like, hey, she's an actress. She should be able to do whatever her script tells her. It's her job. I also saw other people that said there are other couples like Boris and his wife that they make an agreement that they don't do specific particular type of things because they don't want to impact their marriage. So I guess you can set parameters around, especially if you're a couple that's in the entertainment field, that you're going to set boundaries and parameters about what you will and will not do and what type of scripts you will and will not take that could possibly impact your marriage. There are several couples that do that. In this particular case, there were folks that said, especially when he's religious, have an issue of some of the things that she was doing in the movies this year. So I don't know if that was what caused the problem. I do know a lot of people point to that as an issue. But they got real quiet. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. They weren't appearing together in public. Like I said, he still supports her with her career and everything. But when it comes to coming to certain events over the past, I would say 4 or 5 months, he was noticeably absent. So obviously somewhere this summer, and people are definitely pointing to that movie, which it could be a factor, but there maybe were other things, I mean, who knows? But he was the one that filed for divorce, so whatever the situation is, it is unfortunate. But a lot of the things that I mentioned in this video, where getting out of a relationship, jumping into something new, or having totally different lifestyles and trying to mesh that, and especially when you're in a lifestyle where one of the people are extremely religious and there's this expectation of what that couple looks like, whether or not to have children, both people have to be on the same page on the timeline of that. One wants the kids now, the other one don't want them till later or not at all. You have to be on the same timelines. And when you're in the entertainment field, are you on the same page about certain things that you will not do, certain scenes that you will and will not do, in that regard? And if you can work through it, you have couples that work through it. I mean, I'm a soap opera watcher, and they have all kind of scenes, and a lot of them are married to other people. They make it work. Other couples, like I mentioned, they have boundaries and parameters about what they will and will not do. So that's something that has to be worked out in a relationship. So, do I think that they will be single long? With Mr. Franklin, he'll probably find, another person, because I know they're probably giving him all kind of support. Got folks probably sliding in his DMs already. And as for Meagan, she's a beautiful, attractive woman. Who knows? I've seen, things online where, she's probably going to get back to doing her. But it's going to be her choice whether she get back on the dating market. So we'll have to see. But it's just so unfortunate that after 9 years, they have officially called it quits. And, that's something to consider in a marriage. There are some videos saying, like I mentioned earlier, does celibacy means a long-lasting marriage? It's up to the person. Somebody could have sex in 2 weeks and be together for 2 decades or 3 decades. It depends on the people involved. So I wanted to share this video with you. I'm going to start sharing other content in regards to couples, romance in the public eye, things that are happening around not only the TV shows that I recap, but other things that are pretty much trending right now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Sound off in the comments down in the comment sections. Let me know your thoughts. And until the next video, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.